"I'm only here to eat," said the alien girl. Then the CEO realized the truth. The space station Helios Prime floated like a silver city between the stars. It was built by humans, paid for by humans, and protected by human contracts, but today it hosted the most powerful non-human figures in the known galaxy. Diplomats, corporate leaders, and observers from dozens of species filled its halls. Every meeting room was watched. Every corridor was guarded. This was not a place where surprises were welcome. At the center of it all was Ethan Rowe, CEO of Astrodyne Systems, the largest human megacorporation ever created. Ethan stood near the long glass window of the executive hall, hands clasped behind his back, staring at the slow movement of stars. His face was calm, but his mind was sharp and restless. Meetings like this could decide the future of entire systems. One wrong word could cost humanity years of progress. He turned as the doors opened. Delegates entered one by one, tall insect-like traders, glowing energy beings inside containment fields, armored reptilian generals. Each of them carried power, influence, or danger. They took their seats around the massive circular table. Then, at the very end, something unexpected happened. A small figure walked in. She was barely taller than a human child. Her skin was pale with a faint blue tint, her eyes large and dark, reflecting the lights of the hall. She wore no armor, no visible technology, only a simple dark robe. No guards followed her. No delegation claimed her. She walked slowly, quietly, and sat down in an empty seat as if she belonged there. The room fell into an uneasy silence. Security officers stiffened. Translators flickered to life. Several alien delegates whispered in alarm. Ethan raised one eyebrow. "Identify yourself," said a sharp-voiced delegate from the Karth Dominion. The girl looked up, calm and expressionless. When she spoke, her voice was soft but perfectly clear through the translators. "I am only here to eat." The silence deepened. Some delegates laughed nervously, others leaned back, offended. A few reached subtly toward hidden weapons. The words made no sense. Eat what? Food. Power, was it a threat? Ethan studied her carefully. In his decades of leadership, he had learned one thing well. The most dangerous things in the galaxy rarely announced themselves with force. They arrived quietly. "What exactly do you intend to eat?" Ethan asked, his voice level. The girl tilted her head slightly, as if considering the question. "What is offered?" she replied. Security moved closer, waiting for Ethan's signal. He raised a hand, stopping them. "This summit is restricted," said Ethan. "No one enters without clearance." The girl met his gaze. There was no fear in her eyes, no arrogance either, only patience. "I was invited," she said simply. "By whom?" Ethan asked. She paused. "By what is coming." That answer sent a ripple of unease through the room. Several delegates demanded her removal. Others argued that she might be a spy or a distraction. Ethan listened to them all, then made a decision that surprised even his own advisors. "She stays," he said. The room erupted in protest, but Ethan silenced it with a raised hand. "Until she breaks a rule or proves hostile, she remains." The girl nodded once, as if she had expected no other outcome. The meeting continued, but the tension never left the air. Discussions turned to trade restrictions, border disputes, and accusations against human expansion. Some delegates spoke openly about limiting human influence. Others hinted at more aggressive measures. As hours passed, the station's systems began to behave oddly. A minor power fluctuation corrected itself instantly. A cooling failure in the western habitat ring vanished without explanation. A security alert triggered and then shut down before officers could respond. Technicians were confused. Engineers reported no faults. Everything appeared stable, almost too stable. Ethan noticed something else. Every time a problem resolved itself, the alien girl leaned forward slightly, as if listening. Once, she placed her hand on the table, her fingers resting against the metal. Her eyes closed for a brief moment. Then she relaxed. Food, Ethan thought, whatever that meant. During a break, assistants brought in refreshments, nutrient drinks, synthesized meals, and rare alien delicacies. The girl ignored them all. Instead, she looked toward a sealed container carried by a human technician. Inside, it was a small experimental energy core brought as a demonstration piece. "That," she said quietly. The technician froze. Ethan turned slowly. "You want the core?" "Yes." "That is not food," Ethan said carefully. She smiled faintly. "It is to me." After a tense discussion, Ethan allowed it under controlled conditions. The core was inactive, safe. The girl placed both hands on the container. There was no light, no sound. But sensors nearby spiked briefly, then returned to normal. The core was unchanged, but something else had shifted. Moments later, news arrived. A hostile fleet that had been shadowing the station altered course without explanation. No attack, no message, just gone. Ethan felt a chill. As the summit resumed, arguments grew sharper. Accusations against humanity became open threats. Several alien factions hinted at coordinated action. The girl listened. Each time hostility rose, she seemed more focused, more present. Ethan finally understood one thing clearly. She had not come to eat food. She had come because something dangerous was gathering around humanity, and whatever she was, she fed on it. As the lights of Helios Prime glowed steadily against the dark of space, Ethan realized this meeting was no longer about politics or trade. It was about survival. And the smallest person in the room might be the most important one there. The summit resumed, but the mood inside Helios Prime had changed. Where there had once been loud voices and open arguments, there was now a careful restraint, like predators circling while pretending to be calm. Ethan Rowe sat at the center of the table, listening more than he spoke. His eyes often drifted to the small alien girl seated quietly near the far end. She did not speak unless spoken to. She did not eat the prepared meals. She only watched. Ethan noticed that whenever tension rose, she seemed more alert. Her posture straightened. Her fingers tapped lightly against the table, almost like she was sensing something beneath the surface. He began to suspect that whatever she consumed was not physical in the way humans understood it. A Karth Dominion envoy stood and addressed the room. His species was tall, armored, and known for directness. Human expansion continues to destabilize shared regions, the envoy said. Trade routes suffer. Smaller civilizations fear absorption. This summit must result in limitations. Ethan responded calmly. Human expansion follows legal accords. We build where invited. We trade where welcomed. The envoy's eyes narrowed. Your definition of invitation is flexible. Murmurs spread through the hall. Several delegates nodded in agreement. Others watched in silence, clearly measuring which side was stronger. The alien girl tilted her head. A low hum passed through the station, so soft it barely registered. A moment later, the environmental systems adjusted, smoothing pressure imbalances before alarms could sound. Ethan caught the timing. His jaw tightened slightly. During a recess, Ethan requested a private meeting with the girl. Against every security protocol, he ordered the room cleared except for 2 guards at a distance. She followed him without resistance into a quiet observation chamber overlooking the stars. You said you're here to eat, Ethan began. You haven't touched food, so explain. She looked at the stars, then back at him. I eat what grows when minds decide to harm instead of speak. That's not an explanation, Ethan said. It is to me. Ethan exhaled slowly. You're feeding on intent, aggression, threat. She nodded once. And right now, he said, there's a lot of it aimed at humanity. Yes. Why us? He asked. She considered the question longer this time. Because you resist, because you gather, because you do not break easily. Ethan frowned. That doesn't sound like prey. She looked at him directly. It is not. Before he could ask more, alarms sounded, soft, controlled alerts. A technician's voice came through the comm. CEO Rowe, we've detected unauthorized data probes from multiple delegations. They're attempting to access classified human systems. Ethan cursed under his breath. Contain it. As security scrambled, the girl closed her eyes. Her breathing slowed. The room seemed to grow quieter, as if sound itself was being absorbed. Across the station, data streams twisted strangely. Probes lost direction. Encryption keys failed to align. No systems were damaged, but nothing hostile succeeded either. Minutes later, the technician spoke again, confused. Sir, the probes just stopped. Not blocked. Stopped. Ethan looked at the girl. She opened her eyes. Hungry, she said softly. The summit continued under heavier scrutiny. Delegates became more careful, but hostility did not vanish. Instead, it sharpened. Threats were now hidden behind polite words. Ethan ordered deeper scans of galactic records, pulling data from restricted archives. Late into the cycle, his analysts found something disturbing. A near-forgotten classification appeared in ancient Alliance files. System eaters. Rare, neutral, drawn to large-scale conflict. Not destroyers, but consumers of destabilization. They fed on chaos, absorbing it before it could collapse civilizations. Entire wars had ended without explanation wherever they appeared. And always, humanity was listed as a catalyst species, one that generated extreme pressure but also extreme cohesion. Ethan leaned back in his chair, staring at the report. "So she's not protecting us," he muttered. "She's feeding." Yet the result was the same. The next cycle brought open confrontation. A coalition delegate accused humans of preparing a preemptive strike. False evidence was presented, fabricated sensor logs, altered records. The room erupted. Ethan stood. "This is a lie. Prove it," the delegate snapped. Before Ethan could respond, the girl spoke. "I will eat this now." Every screen in the room flickered. The false data unraveled in real time, contradictions exposing themselves like rot beneath a surface. Delegates gasped as their own systems confirmed the deception. The accusing delegate stumbled back, stunned. The girl looked smaller again, calmer. "Bitter," she said. "But filling." Silence followed. No one challenged humanity again that day. Ethan realized something then that unsettled him more than any threat. The galaxy was not afraid of humans because of their weapons. It was afraid because even the forces that fed on chaos found humanity sustaining. And as the summit dragged on, one truth became clear. The more pressure placed on humans, the stronger the girl became. And something much larger was beginning to notice. Helios Prime no longer felt like a neutral station. The walls were the same polished metal, the lights still steady and white, but the atmosphere had changed. There was a quiet weight in the air, like the moment before a storm breaks. Every delegate felt it, even if they did not understand it. Ethan Rose slept little. He spent most cycles in his office, reviewing reports, watching feeds, and thinking about the small alien girl who sat calmly in the summit hall as if nothing in the galaxy could disturb her. Her presence was now known to everyone. No one laughed anymore when she spoke. No one dismissed her words as strange. Too many coincidences had stacked together. Too many threats had faded the moment they formed. Ethan stood by the window again, looking out at the stars. Humanity had always believed it survived because it adapted faster than others. Because it refused to surrender. But now he wondered if something else had always been watching them. A knock came at the door. "Enter," he said. His chief analyst stepped in, her face pale. "Sir, the coalition fleets, not the ones we already knew about. More hidden groups." "They're moving." "How many?" Ethan asked. "Enough to overwhelm the station if they coordinated." Ethan nodded slowly. "Are they hostile?" "They're undecided," she replied. "But they're watching, waiting." Ethan dismissed her and turned back to the window, waiting. That word bothered him more than open aggression. In the summit hall, the alien girl sat alone during a break. The other delegates kept their distance now, some out of fear, others out of respect. She rested her hands on the table, eyes half closed, as if listening to something far away. Ethan approached and sat across from her. "They're gathering," he said quietly. "Yes," she replied. "Why haven't you stopped them?" She opened her eyes. "Because they have not decided." Ethan frowned. "Decided what?" "To break," she said, "or to turn away." "You only eat when they choose to harm," he said. She nodded. Ethan leaned forward. "And if they all decide at once?" "Then I will be very full," she said calmly. That answer did not comfort him. As the next summit session began, a new presence made itself known. A massive holographic projection filled the center of the hall, towering over the table. It was a being of light and shifting geometry, ancient and powerful. Gasps echoed through the room. "The Overseer Conquered has joined," announced the station AI. Even the most aggressive delegates stiffened. The Overseers were old, older than most recorded history. They did not intervene often, but when they did, civilizations listened. The Overseer spoke, its voice layered and deep. "This gathering has attracted instability beyond acceptable levels." Ethan rose to his feet. "Humanity has acted within all agreements." "That is not in dispute," the Overseer replied. "The concern is the presence you host." All eyes turned to the alien girl. She looked up at the projection without fear. "You are a system eater," the Overseer said. "Your kind is meant to wander, not settle." "I am wandering," she replied softly. "You are feeding," the Overseer said, "on a scale that draws attention." "Yes," she said again, the Overseer's light pulsed. "You risk imbalance." The girl stood. Though small, she seemed taller now, more solid. "Imbalance already exists," she said. "I did not create it. I only consume what is offered." The room was silent. Ethan realized then that this was not a debate about humanity anymore. It was about whether the galaxy would accept what humans inspired. The overseer turned its focus to Ethan. Human leader, your species generates extreme pressure. Conflict follows you. Ethan met its gaze. So does progress. The overseer paused. Progress is often destructive. Only if it's resisted, Ethan said. The alien girl looked between them. You argue, she said, while they prepare. At that moment, alarms rang, not sharp but deep and resonant. Long-range sensors lit up. Multiple fleets were accelerating, no more waiting. They've decided, Ethan whispered. The overseer's light flickered. This is unacceptable. The girl closed her eyes. Across the station, systems hummed. Not alarms, not failures, adjustments. The lights dimmed slightly, then steadied. Gravity normalized with perfect balance. Even the air felt calmer, heavier. Outside, in the cold dark of space, something invisible spread outward. The attacking fleets experienced confusion first. Targeting systems failed to lock. Command signals lost clarity. Aggressive intent fractured into doubt, fear, hesitation. Orders contradicted each other. Unity broke. The girl's breathing deepened. Color returned to her skin. She looked healthier, stronger. Ethan watched sensor data scroll past in disbelief. She's not blocking them, he realized. She's draining the reason they came. The overseer observed silently. Some ships turned away. Others powered down weapons. A few drifted, lost, unsure why they had come at all. Minutes passed. Then the threat was gone. The girl opened her eyes and exhaled softly. That was a lot, she said. The summit hall remained silent long after the danger passed. Finally, the overseer spoke. This confirms our records. Which are? Ethan asked. That humanity is not merely a disruptive species, the overseer said. You are a convergence point where decisions are forced. Ethan felt a strange mix of pride and fear. The overseer turned to the girl. You cannot remain. She looked at Ethan. He understood the unspoken question. If she left, the galaxy might test humanity again. If she stayed, humanity would never be ignored again. You can go, Ethan said slowly. But know this, humans won't change to make others comfortable. The girl smiled faintly. That is why I came. She stepped back, her presence already feeling lighter, less dense. But I will not go far, she added. You are not finished yet. As she walked toward the exit, the overseer faded from view. Delegates sat stunned, their understanding of humanity rewritten in a single cycle. Ethan remained standing, staring at the empty space she left behind. He finally understood the truth. Humans were not dangerous because they sought conflict. They were dangerous because even the forces that fed on chaos found humanity endlessly nourishing. And the galaxy had just taken its first step toward learning what that meant. The summit did not end after the fleets withdrew. In many ways, it truly began then. Helios Prime became quieter, but the silence was heavier than before. Delegates no longer argued openly. They spoke in low voices, careful with every word. Some avoided eye contact with the human delegation altogether. Others watched Ethan row with new interest, as if seeing him for the first time. The small alien girl was gone from the hall, but her absence was loud. People kept glancing at the seat where she had sat, half expecting her to still be there, calm and listening. Ethan felt the weight of responsibility press down on him. He had led corporations through wars of markets and resources, but this was different. The galaxy itself was shifting, and humanity stood at the center of it. Reports began arriving from beyond the station. Border worlds reported sudden calm where tension had been building for years. Pirate activity dropped without explanation. Long-standing feuds between minor powers stalled, not resolved, but paused. It was as if the universe was holding its breath. But not everyone welcomed that calm. In a secure chamber far from the summit hall, a group of non-aligned delegates met in secret. Their species were different, their cultures opposed, but they shared one fear. Humanity had become a trigger. They draw things, one of them said, a tall avian being with sharp eyes. Ancient things, forces we barely understand. And those things favor them, said another, a being wrapped in mechanical supports. That cannot be allowed. A third delegate tapped the table slowly. The system eater fed on our intent. That means intent itself is now a liability. Silence followed. Finally, the avian delegate spoke again. Then we changed the nature of the decision. The plan they formed was subtle. No fleets, no weapons. No threats that could be sensed and consumed. Instead, they would apply pressure indirectly. Economic collapse, information manipulation, political isolation, push humanity into desperation without ever choosing open harm. If humans fall apart on their own, the delegate said softly, there is nothing for her to eat. The decision was made. Ethan felt it before he saw it. Trade routes began closing. Contracts were delayed, then quietly canceled. Human corporations faced sudden audits from neutral regulators. Media networks across the galaxy pushed narratives of human instability and danger. None of it was aggressive. None of it was violent. But it was coordinated. Ethan gathered his advisors. They're trying to starve us, he said. Not of resources, of unity. One advisor shook her head. They're careful, no clear hostility. Ethan looked toward the stars beyond the window. They learned. Across the station, the alien girl stood alone in a quiet observation ring. She was weaker than before, her steps slower. The galaxy felt different now, quieter but also sharper. They are hiding, she murmured to herself. Clever. She pressed her hand against the transparent wall. Far away, she could sense humanity straining, adapting, refusing to break. She smiled faintly. They still choose. On Earth and human colonies, leaders faced difficult decisions. Panic spread in some regions, but not everywhere. In many places, people worked harder, shared more. Adapted supply chains, built local systems where galactic ones failed. Humanity did not unify perfectly. It never had. But it did not collapse. That resilience sent small ripples through the unseen layers of reality, not enough to feed on, but enough to signal presence. The secret coalition grew impatient. They're enduring, one delegate said. We need an ending. They chose one final move. A false emergency signal was sent from a human-aligned world near a volatile region of space. The signal was designed to trigger panic responses from neighboring powers, not through aggression but through fear of contamination and instability. Evacuations began, borders sealed, accusations flew. The galaxy edged toward chaos without ever declaring it. On Helios Prime, alarms sounded again, not attacks but warnings of cascading diplomatic failures. Ethan stood in the command center, watching systems light up. They're pushing everything at once, he said. This is a test. Of what? An officer asked. Of whether humanity will turn on itself, Ethan replied. The alien girl felt the shift immediately. Her knees weakened, then steadied. This was not a feast. It was thin, fragmented, carefully controlled, but there was still choice, still pressure. She began to walk. No one stopped her as she entered the summit hall again. Conversations died instantly. Heads turned. Fear and hope mixed in equal measure. Ethan looked up, relief flickering across his face. You came back. I did not leave, she said. I was listening. She stepped into the center of the room. You try to harm without choosing harm, she said, her voice calm but clear. You try to break without admitting the break. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. That is new, she continued. But not enough. She closed her eyes. This time the effect was slower, more precise. Across the galaxy, false reports unraveled, contradictions surfaced. Hidden coordination lines became visible. Truth did not strike like a wave, it seeped in quietly, relentlessly. Delegates received messages from their home systems. Investigations, questions, doubt. The coalition's unity cracked. The girl swayed, catching herself against the table. Ethan moved forward, steadying her without thinking. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. She looked up at him. I eat what is offered, she replied. And this was offered. The secret coalition collapsed within hours, not through punishment but exposure. Trust dissolved. Agreements failed. The pressure they had built turned inward. When it was over, the galaxy stood exhausted. The girl leaned against Ethan's arm, smaller again. That was difficult, she admitted. Ethan helped her sit. You don't owe us, she shook her head. You misunderstand, I am not helping you. Then why stay? He asked. She looked around the hall at the delegates, at the humans standing firm despite everything. Because you continue to choose, she said, even when breaking would be easier. The overseer appeared again, its light dimmer than before. You strain the balance, it said to Ethan. Ethan met its gaze. So does every species that grows. The overseer paused. Perhaps, but few survive it. The girl smiled weakly. They will. As the overseer faded once more, the summit ended at last, not with treaties signed in joy, but with understanding forced into place. Humanity had not won, but it had not fallen, and in the quiet that followed, the galaxy understood something new. You could pressure humans, you could isolate them, you could even starve them. But as long as they chose to stand together, they would never truly be alone. And somewhere just beyond sight, something ancient would always be listening. Helios Prime slowly returned to normal life. The summit halls were empty now, the great table cleared, the lights dimmed to a peaceful glow. Delegations departed one by one, their ships slipping quietly into hyperspace. No speeches were given. No victory was declared. The galaxy left with heavy thoughts and careful plans. Ethan Rowe remained on the station longer than required. He stood once more at the wide observation window, watching Earth's trade lanes light up on distant displays. Humanity had survived another turning point, but he knew survival was never the end of the story. It was only the beginning of the next test. Behind him, soft footsteps approached. "You are thinking loudly," the alien girl said. Ethan turned. She looked healthier now, her posture steady, her eyes clearer. She still appeared small and unassuming, but Ethan no longer measured her by size. "I'm thinking about what comes next," he replied. "For us, for you," she nodded. "You will be watched." "We always are," Ethan said with a faint smile. They stood together in silence for a moment. Then Ethan spoke again. "The galaxy will adapt. They'll learn new ways to pressure us, cleaner ways." "Yes," she agreed. "They will try to avoid choosing." "And you?" he asked. "What happens when they succeed?" She looked out at the stars. "Then I will grow hungry again somewhere else." Ethan frowned. "You make it sound simple." "It is," she said. "Choice creates weight, weight creates nourishment." Ethan considered that. "And humans," she turned to him, "you create choice even when none is required." That statement stayed with him. Before her departure, the overseer Concord requested one final meeting, not in the public halls, but in a quiet chamber overlooking the station's core. Ethan and the girl entered together. The overseer's form shimmered into existence, calmer than before. "The balance has shifted," it said, "not catastrophically, but permanently." Ethan crossed his arms. "Because of us?" "Yes," the overseer replied, "and because of her." The girl did not react. "System eaters were never meant to linger," the overseer continued. "Yet this one has found compatibility." Ethan looked at the girl. "Is that true?" She thought for a long moment. "I do not linger," she said carefully, "but I return." The overseer's light pulsed. "That may be enough to alter outcomes." "Is that a threat?" Ethan asked. "No," the overseer said. "It is an observation." The overseer shifted its focus to Ethan. "Humanity stands at a dangerous point. You generate pressure faster than you resolve it." Ethan nodded. "We're aware." "And yet," the overseer continued, "you do not collapse under it. You redistribute it, internally, socially, culturally." Ethan allowed himself a small smile. "We argue a lot." "Yes," the overseer said, "but you keep choosing." The overseer turned back to the girl. "You will leave this system." "Yes," she said. "But you will not sever your awareness of them," the overseer said. "No," she replied again. The overseer was silent for a long time, then it spoke one final sentence. "Then the galaxy will learn." The projection faded. Preparations for departure were quiet, no ceremonies. No escorts. The girl stood at a small transport gate, her simple robe unchanged, her presence light but noticeable. Ethan stood with her. "Will we see you again?" She looked at him. "You already do," she said. "Every time you choose to stand." He nodded slowly. "If one day we fail," she met his eyes. "Then I will not come," she said gently, "and that will be worse." The gate activated. Soft light surrounded her. Before stepping through, she paused. "You asked why I came," she said. "The truth is I was curious." "About what?" Ethan asked. "About a species that produces so much pressure and does not tear itself apart," she replied. "About a species that feeds me without meaning to." She gave a small, honest smile. "Thank you for the meal." And then she was gone. Life across human space did not become easier. Trade rebuilt slowly. Trust returned carefully. Some alien powers remained distant, others cautiously cooperative. Humanity was not loved, but it was respected. Stories spread quietly through the galaxy. Not myths, not legends, records, of fleets that lost their will to fight, of schemes that unraveled without explosions, of a small figure who appeared when decisions turned sharp. And always humans were nearby. Ethan returned to Earth months later. He stood before a council of leaders, sharing everything he could except one thing. He did not tell them how close the galaxy had come to forcing a choice humanity might not have survived. Instead, he said, "We were tested." "And?" one leader asked. Ethan looked out over the city, at millions of lives moving forward despite uncertainty. "And we chose," he said. Far beyond human space, in the quiet between stars, the alien girl drifted through the dark. She listened to the universe, to its tensions and silences. Many civilizations avoided pressure, many avoided choice. Humanity did neither. She felt the familiar pull, faint but steady like a distant heartbeat. "Not yet," she whispered to the stars. But when the next great decision came, when the galaxy once again leaned toward breaking, she would know where to go. Because humans did not need to be protected. They only needed to be seen, and the universe at last was paying attention.